Welcome back, guys. Magnus Carlsen is simply unstoppable at the moment. In this video, we will be taking a look at his game with Sergey Karjakin from day 2 of the Rapid Games in Côte d'Ivoire. So Sergey Karjakin had the white pieces in this game against Magnus. He opened the game with e4. Magnus, as usual, plays the Sicilian defense. Knight f3 from Karjakin, knight c6, and here Karjakin goes knight c3. So he doesn't commit to the open Sicilian. Some of you might remember that Karjakin has recently lost a game to Carlsen's Sveshniknov Sicilian. So here he goes knight c3, maybe hinting at a closed Sicilian. Carlsen goes e5, which closes the center. Karjakin goes bishop c4, bishop e7 from Carlsen, d3, d6. And here Karjakin goes knight d2, so an interesting decision by Karjakin. He decides to delay castling for this knight f1, knight e3 maneuver, because if white were to castle, then he would need to waste a tempo with the move rook e1 to play this maneuver. So here Carlsen continued with knight f6, knight f1 from Karjakin, and knight d7. And with knight d7, Carlsen is ready to challenge the bishop on c4 and frees up the move f5 in the future. So a3 was played by Karjakin, giving the bishop a flight square. Knight b6, bishop a2, Magnus castled, knight to e3, bishop e6. So here taking would simply improve black's position. This would eliminate white's outpost on d5. It would give black a stronger center and also open up the f-file. So here after bishop e6, knight c to d5 played. Magnus goes bishop g5, Karjakin castled, and Carlsen decides to exchange off his bad bishop. So here if bishop takes e3, then black would exchange on d5, knight e7, so that has to be protected with the move c4. And here f5 is possible. Knight f5 is pretty annoying as well. This bishop is kind of misplaced. And a trade would leave white with a very poor light square bishop on a2. And if bishop d2, black can play the knight to d4. So here after bishop takes e3, f takes e3 played, opening up the file and also gaining control of the d4 square. Magnus played knight e7, so this knight on d5 is a little shaky. c4 was played to reinforce the knight, and this reaches a completely new position. But in playing c4, this leaves white with a very bad bishop on a2. Magnus now broke with f5, so here taking seems very logical to avoid the doubling of the pawns, but Karjakin plays the move bishop to d2, so he doesn't mind the move f takes e4. Taking would leave white with a weakened structure without compensation. Instead, white here would play the move rook takes f8. So queen takes f8 is impossible because of the move knight c7. So after king takes f8, d takes e4, yes, white does have a weakened structure, but at least this is compensated by the awkwardly placed king. So after bishop d2, Carlsen could try to play a calm move like queen d7, which basically avoids any knight c7 tricks and also questions white about what to do with this pawn tension. Instead, Carlsen, without much hesitation, played bishop takes d5. Now the engines really dislike this move, but it's not easy to exploit the advantage of the two bishops, especially when the position is still relatively closed. So Carlsen goes knight d7, b4 played, trying to open up some lines, b6 from Carlsen, bishop b3, knight g6, so giving the queen a bit more scope. And this is where Karjakin starts to go astray. He plays bishop a4, Magnus goes queen e7, so connecting the rooks, bishop c6, rook a to d8, and queen to a4. It seems that black has no decent way of defending a7. knight b8 seems very passive, but Carlsen managed to navigate through the difficulties, and here he played knight f6. So on first glance, this seems to just hang a pawn on f5, but Carlsen managed to make it work. So Carlsen has just put his pieces on better squares, and you can feel that a pawn break is just about to occur. So if black is given the opportunity, he might consider playing e4, capturing on d3, and this would leave white with a weak backward pawn, and this gives Carlsen some nice protected squares for his knights. So here, b takes c5 plate, b takes c5. In this position, white can try to play rook over to e1, which aims to meet the move e4 with d4, and here things start to get very complicated after f4, e takes f4, c takes d4, bishop a5, e3. This is very complicated. So rook over to b1 is also possible, trying to infiltrate with rook to b7. But in the game, Karjakin played rook takes f5, grabbing the poisoned pawn. So let's see how Magnus exploited this. Magnus played the move e4 and queen c2 from Karjakin. So if the pawn is taken with d takes e4, knight takes e4 comes with an attack on the rook and also attacks the bishop on d2. And if rook takes f8, rook takes f8. The bishop is hanging. If you play queen to c2, queen f6 is decisive, simply threatening the rook on a8 and threatening to play queen f2 check, followed by a back rank mate. And if white tries to move the bishop away, say bishop to a5, black obviously has a very big initiative with his active knight and the control of the f-file, and something like this could occur. Queen f6, so again threatening to play queen takes a1 and queen f2 check. So queen d1 plate, queen f2 check, king to h1, knight h4, threatening mate on g2, queen g1, the only defense, and now queen f6, threatening to play simply knight f2, and this is also decisive. So after the move e4, Karjakin retreated queen, queen c2, and knight g4. So Magnus did not play the most accurate moves according to the engine, but it was very effective. Karjakin definitely felt the pressure. So rook over to f1, we have rook takes f5 from Carlsen, rook takes f5, queen h4, threatening to play queen takes h2, so h3, and now a nice tactical shot, knight takes e3. So this has to be taken, bishop takes e3, queen e1 check, regaining the piece. D takes e4 from Karjakin, and Carlsen plays knight f4, bringing another piece into the attack. The computer thinks that black's advantage isn't that significant, but in practice, this is very difficult to play as white. Black has all sorts of threats that need to be dealt with. There are ideas like bringing the rook over to the b file, maybe to b3, which threatens queen g3, queen to g3 check. And after, for example, king g1, you can play rook b1 check. And after queen takes c1, queen takes g2. There are also ideas like the knight coming to e2, threatening mate on g1. So there are also things to be worried about, such as this rook potentially getting trapped, and white's bishop is pretty much useless on c6. So Karjakin definitely felt the pressure here, and he cracked with queen b2. So the best defense was to go queen to b1, so controlling this file and also maintaining protection on the e4 pawn. But after g6, rook f6, queen f2, threatening mate, forcing queen g1, Queen h4, queen to a1, the only way to defend the rook. Knight d3, and after something like queen f1, queen takes e4, with a pleasant edge for Carlsen, and any ending would be favorable for black, as the knight is far superior to the bishop. So queen b1 would be the best defense, but here queen b2 played by Karjakin. Magnus simply captured on e4, which attacks the rook. Here if rook to g5, simply knight g6 defending against mate. This also threatens queen f4 check. Black is also preparing to cement the knight on e5 with a comfortable advantage. So in the game we see bishop to d7 from Karjakin, trying to mix things up, and obviously this can't be taken because of queen b8 check. So after bishop d7, Carlsen calmly plays g6, and white's awkwardly placed pieces result in a material loss. So rook f6 from Karjakin, knight to d3, so queen to c3 played by Karjakin. The queen has to stay on the diagonal to prevent black from playing queen e5 check. And here Magnus just captures the bishop, rook e6, queen to f4 check. Black is up a whole piece. His knight is coming to e5, and this is a hopeless position, so Karjakin resigned the game. Karjakin's downfall was probably when he grabbed the poisoned pawn, as it gave Magnus too good of an initiative, and Karjakin eventually succumbed to the pressure. Magnus was unstoppable on day 2 as well, scoring 2.5 out of 3, which gives him a total of 5 out of 6, and he leads the field by a point. Nakamura is clear second on 4 out of 6. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.